Well, a very good afternoon and welcome along to today's Light Bite Lunch. My name is Rory Devlin, and today we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at Budget 2023. Before we start, I do want to do the usual health warnings that comes with the budget every year. The information we have at this moment in time is the information as was announced by Ministers Donoghue and Minister McGrath. And this is only a snapshot of the full Finance Act. So the information I'm going to provide today is my interpretation of what has been announced. As always, the devil is going to be in the detail, and when we see the full Finance Act, we will have a much better position and much better view of the overall picture. Firstly, to tell you a little bit about myself, as a lot of you know who are regular viewers watching the Light Bite Lunch, separate to hosting the Light Bite Lunch, I also am a tax consultant and business development consultant. Among many other bits and pieces, I'm also the chairman of the Micro Business Awards. I have a passion for micro businesses and work tirelessly to try and give micro businesses the best opportunities for growth. And I'm also a registered government lobbyist. Again, I would deem myself as very much a selective lobbyist in that I don't take every time I'm asked to do lobbying on something. I don't always say, yes, I will lobby on your behalf, because I have to look at it and I have to see the validity of it and the viability. It's a case of, when lobbying, there are a number of aspects you have to look at. What is the subject being lobbied on? Who benefits from the lobbying? And what will the cost to provide what is needed within the lobbying be? And that's a discussion for another day, as today we want to look at everything that came up in Budget 2023. Anyone has any questions or anything during the broadcast, please do drop them into the comments and we will answer them. I am not in a position to answer individual personal circumstances or that type of thing. I will only be giving general answers, but I'm hoping I've covered a lot of the main points in what I've put together for you today. As a lot of you know from watching the show normally, it's unusual to see me with a bundle of papers in hand, but because there is so much data heavy, I do today have quite a big, large bundle of notes here, so please do bear with me. One of the biggest questions that have been asked, that people have sent me in messages asking about, is the vacant homes tax and how is this going to work? So from next year, they are going to introduce a vacant homes tax, and this tax will apply to residential properties which are occupied for less than 30 days in a 12-month period. The tax will be charged at a rate equal to 3 times the property's existing local property tax liability. Now, what this actually means is, whatever your current property tax valuation is, if a property is vacant for if a property is not occupied for more than 30 days across the year, you will be liable to 3 times the property tax plus the property tax. So it's actually a case you will pay 4 times the property tax for that year. They have said there will be a number of exemptions to ensure property owners are not unfairly charged for temporary vacancies arising from genuine reasons. Again, what they will deem as genuine reasons, we will discover as we go through the various Finance Act when the full text is released. In terms of tax relief for landlords and renters, a new €500 tax credit for private tenants. Very important factor in this. This will only apply to people who are not in receipt of other state housing supports. So, if you are in receipt of rent allowance, if you are in receipt of HAP, if you are a council tenant, because that would be deemed as being in receipt of other state housing, you will not qualify for this €500 tax credit. The credit will be claimable in 2023 and subsequent years but they have backdated it to 2022, and from early 2023 you will be in a position to claim the backdated tax credit. I was delighted to hear that they have included anybody who is making use of the rental room relief will also be able to claim this tax credit. Again, emphasis on the fact it is a tax credit, it is not a payout of €500. I have also been advised, speaking with the department, that where you have a couple cohabiting, both will qualify, or you have a married couple, both will qualify for that €500 tax credit. There's a number of other measures announced focusing on encouraging residential development and supporting the private rental market, all of which are welcomed and should help to alleviate the current supply constraints. The key measures include an extension of the Help to Buy scheme for another 2 years, so it'll now expire on the 31st of December 2024. A formal review of the scheme was undertaken earlier this year. However, as of yet, the results haven't been published, so it's a case of watch this space, and when that information becomes available, we will bring it to you. One that was badly needed. There is a scheme in place for landlords, just give me a second, where if a property is vacant for 12 months, they are allowed to spend up to €5,000 to set it up again for letting out. That scheme has now been extended that they can claim up to €10,000, and the property only has to have been vacant for a period of 6 months. So again, it's trying to generate a little bit more into the market and create a few more properties available to let. The vacant home tax will be introduced, as I've mentioned, but it will apply to residential properties less than 30 days and 12 months. However, the exemptions will apply. There's also going to be amendments to the residential zoned land tax. Again, until we actually see exactly what these are in the final act, it's good to know they're coming, but I would prefer to wait and see what they are before commenting on how good or bad or how useful they will be. I totally understand the levy that's being applied to concrete to help fund the MICA redress scheme. The money has to come from somewhere, as with all these things. However, I have to question the logistics that at a time of a housing shortage, to be creating additional costs on getting properties built, you have to wonder how it is. I have my own views on alternatives schemes to the MICA redress that could have been far more effective, but again, that's a conversation for another day because that's not budget related directly. The stamp duty residential land rebate scheme is a rather unusual one in that it allows for a refund of 11/15 of the stamp duty paid on land that subsequently developed for residential purposes. So this was due to expire in the end of December 22 and has now been extended to the end of 25. No other relief changes to that have been sought over the last few years, such as amending the 75% land coverage test, extending the time frame for commencing construction, or extending the deadline for completing construction. So there's been no other changes made. Now we move on to personal tax. Again, I've had a whole string of questions in about this, and so I said I would try and cover it in as much detail as possible without being able to get into individual details for individual people. So Budget 2023 provided the government with an opportunity to relieve some of the tax burden on individuals facing increases in the cost of living. The measures announced will put some money back in the pocket of taxpayers, which will contribute towards these increased cost of living. In that being said, what's going to be there and what's going to be available, there is no amount of money is going to solve the cost of living crisis. Right? And borrowing is not the right thing to do at the moment because the cost of borrowing is so high, etc. So in all reality, it was a very fine line they were walking. The key measure, and probably one of the most beneficial for small and individual businesses, is the increase of the standard rate cut-off to 40,000. In essence, anyone can earn an additional €3,200 before paying tax of 40%. This is a direct saving of €640 in the pocket of people who were between that threshold of 36,800 and 40,000. It's a direct savings. They have €640 a year more in their pocket. Again, may not sound like a lot, but when you're struggling, it can make a huge difference. We also have an increase of €75 in the personal tax credit, the employee PAYE tax credit, and the earned income tax credits. So again, doesn't quite match inflation, but all are a welcome additional measures, and these will be further supported by the increase in the 2% threshold for USC. Again, the reintroduction of the rent credit of €500, which we are told is going to remain in subsequent years, is also going to help, as will the increase in the €100 in the home carer tax credit. Employers will most definitely welcome the fact that there's been no increase to employer PRSI rates, although these may yet come at a later date as part of the government's medium-term roadmap for personal tax reform. There were also welcome changes to the small benefits exemption scheme, which will now increase to an annual limit of €1,000 per employee, effective from this year. So what that means, currently, as an employer, you can provide a tax-free gift once it is not cash, so it can be in some form of voucher, of €500 to an employee once a year. This has now been extended that it can be €1,000 and it can be made in up to 2 vouchers. So where previously it was 1 gift and that was your lot, now it can be spread into 2 vouchers or can all be given at once. It's entirely optional, and that is a totally tax-free benefit to the employee. Private business remains a key focus in Budget 2023, with ministers acknowledging the contributions of small and medium-sized enterprises to the wider economy and announcing measures to support such businesses. These are supports that are desperately badly needed to businesses which are absolutely struggling at the moment and need all the help they can get. In addition to the employer supports, there's the Temporary Business Energy Support Scheme, which is going to carry, for any business carrying on trading activities, will be eligible for a refund of 40% of the increase in electricity and gas prices, subject to a monthly cap of €10,000 per trade. An overall cap will also apply to the total amount a business can claim. Now, my understanding on this, it is going to be quite complex to establish what your actual entitlement is here. You will need to go back, you will need to look at what were the costs per unit in August 2021, what were the costs in unit in August 2022, and there is your starting point. Whatever the cost per unit times the number of units you're using times 40%. As I understand it at this moment in time, that is how they are going to figure out what rebate you're entitled to. The increase in standing charges, etc., you are not going to be entitled to claim for. Again, the detail will come out in that when we see the full Act, the full Finance Act, and we will know at that stage what we're looking at. Moving on then to look at corporate tax. There was, as expected, few surprises in the budget. For many years, calls have been made for Ireland to introduce a territorial regime of double tax credit relief in the form of a participation exemption. The Minister signalled that options for the introduction of a territorial exemption would be seriously considered in conjunction with the ongoing work to implement Pillar 2. Regarding global tax reform, the Minister's statements regarding Ireland's position on and approach to the implementation of the Pillar 2 agreement reaffirmed Ireland's long-standing position that a coordinated and multilateral approach is the best approach to ensure the international tax system keeps pace with today's business environment. We have seen changes to the R&D tax credit in relation to the payable portion. This will also be made in light of these changes. The budget has taken clear steps to support a knowledge economy and attract investment that relates to creative and research-based industries. This is evidenced by the extension of the Film Corporation tax credit beyond the current end date of 2024 until December 2028, which is a huge step to have made the decision in 2022, planning for 23. Normally, it would have been next year before we'd have heard any mention, but the government are making that commitment now and have extended it out to December 2028. There's also a review focused on supporting the unscripted television production sector. So we will see what that actually generates when the report is finally published. And they're also extending the knowledge development box by 4 years with a new effective rate of 10%. In relation to financial services, Minister Donoghue confirmed the establishment of a working group to consider the taxation of funds, life assurance policies, and other investment products. So it will be interesting to see what that working group comes back with, and it's not for me to speculate on what they may or may not find. The Minister did acknowledge the key role played by institutional investors in increasing housing supply and ultimately supporting a property functioning and sustainable market. In this regard, a review of the relevant regimes was announced, which would be key to maintaining the certainty and stability of these regimes and therefore ensuring they continue to play a crucial role. The output from such reviews will likely be considered in the context of Budget 2024 measures. The bank levy has also been extended for a further year, with the long-term future of the levy to be considered following the publication of the Retail Banking Review. So that gives us everything we need to know in relation to personal and corporation tax. The next thing they're going to look at is carbon tax. Always has been hugely contentious, again, due to European regulations and European agreements signed up to. There was no way to do away with the carbon tax. So the carbon tax rate will increase as it was scheduled from €41 to 48.5 or €48.50 per tonne of CO2. This will apply to auto fuels with effect from the 12th of October and all other fuels from the 1st of May 2023. However, the impact of the carbon tax increase on auto fuels will be offset with a reduction in the National Oil Reserves Agency levy. This has actually now been cut from, it was only 2 cents per litre, that's now been done away with down to 0 cents per litre. So with the removal of that National Oil Reserves Agency, it should, in essence, cancel out the at-pump price. However, as we all know, fuel prices are forever changing and hopping about. Following much speculation in advance of budget date, the Minister did not announce the immediate introduction of a windfall tax. Instead, the government are going to monitor progress at an EU level and have committed to proceeding with domestic windfall tax measures if EU measures do not materialise. In terms of the windfall tax, there are several aspects that need to be looked at and that you need to be aware of. Where do you decide to apply this windfall tax? Under the ethos, as many other countries have done it, it is from the people generating the actual product. In Ireland, other than the national ones, which are government run, we don't have anyone generating the electric here. A lot of it is coming in from the UK, etc. So therefore, any domestic windfall tax measures really and truly would not generate a whole lot. And for the cost of administering them would actually be cost negative. There are other ways that can be looked at, and I'm sure that they are being considered by the government at the moment as a means to find the right way to target the right people. However, other key climate measures is the increase in carbon tax, and that there's an additional 850 million allocated to the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications, of which 377 million will go towards energy efficiency, including the warmer home schemes. There will also be funding to support the introduction of a new low-cost loan scheme for residential retrofitting. Every household will receive 3 €200 energy credits. Originally, when this was mentioned, they were talking about these credits happening in October, December, and February. However, I'm hearing this morning that they're now talking it'll probably be November, January, and March. But again, we will watch this space. As a means for help with increased energy prices, there'll be a double weekly payment of all weekly social welfare payments in October 2022. This is being called the Autumn Cost of Living Double Payment. The exact date of the payment is yet to be decided, but I'm predicting either the 17th or 24th of October. There will also be a double payment of children's allowance in November, and all fuel allowance claimants will get a one-off lump sum of €400 in November 2022. Living alone allowance claimants will get a one-off lump sum of €200 in November. Anyone on the working family payment will get a €500 lump sum in November, and a lump sum of €500 for those on the carer support grant, disability allowances, invalidity pensions, or the blind pension, again somewhere in November 2022. The means test threshold for the fuel allowance is going to increase from €120 to €200 for those under 70 in January 2023. And there will be a new means tested disregard for fuel allowance for those over 70, which will allow them €500 earnings for a single person and up to €1,000 per week for a couple. Moving on to education and health. In education, a once-off double monthly payment for those in receipt of the SUSNI maintenance grants. Third level fees to be reduced by €1,000 just for 2022. For anybody who has paid their fees in full, this will be refunded before the end of the year. For those who are on phased payments, that will now be reduced by €1,000. There will also be free school books at primary level from September next year. On the matter of the third level fees, there is quite a bit of discontent at the moment that next year's, even with the winding back of the registration fees, that next year they're going to be paying €500 more than this year. I personally am of the view that actually, if the €1,000 back this year hadn't happened, next year they'd be paying €500 less. So in essence, by the end of next year, they're €1,500 better off, right? Whereas others are complaining that with the £1,000 they're still paying an additional €500 next year. That's something that, as with all things in statistics, you work the statistics right way, you can make them say whatever you want. Something that will be a huge relief to a lot of people is the abolition of patient hospital charges. If you are on an overnight stay in hospital, you will receive a bill for €80, which is capped at €800 a year. This charge from next year will be abolished. We are waiting to see details of exactly when. To the best of my knowledge at this moment in time, we are going to have a charge will still apply if you show up at the hospital to go and see or go through A&E. That charge will remain, but if you have to be admitted, then there will not be a charge for staying overnight in public hospitals. We also have the introduction of IVF, etc., through the health system. Again, there are a number of questions to be resolved on that as to exactly what will be covered, what won't, as even the countries offering the best of cover on that currently don't cover everything. So that's the fine print is still to be worked out. And once again, I refer back, we will wait to see exactly what comes up when the Finance Act is published. For everyone on or below the median income, you will now qualify for a free GP visit cards. And the drug payment scheme will remain at the lower rate of €80 in 2023. So again, for anyone who's on long-term illness medication, the amount you will spend on prescriptions is capped at €80 per month. So then we move on and have a look at the changes coming to the VAT rates from next year. The VAT rate for newspapers, news periodicals, and this includes the digital editions, has been reduced from 9% to 0%. Again, this is something that has been called for quite a number of years for people who are trying to keep up to date on everything that's happening, and the costs are getting higher and higher. So it's nice to see that that has come in. Also, the VAT has also been scrapped on women's hygiene products, as well as non-oral hormone replacement therapy and all non-oral nicotine replacement therapy. The 9% VAT rate was previously introduced for gas and electricity. That was back in May and was due to expire in October. This has now been extended to the end of February 2023. When that runs out at the end of February is also the same time as the 9% rate for hospitality runs out. As it was a case that was put in as a short-term measure. Now, that is going to see a huge jump in the costs. I was speaking to one restaurateur this morning, and he also operates a takeaway, and he was saying that realistically, from the 1st of March next year, we can expect to be paying between €4 and €5 for the bag of chips. And he said it kind of defeats the purpose of the saying, as cheap as chips. What that actually means, so that people understand that this isn't just a case of the restaurants saying, right, we're going to bang an extra X on. The VAT bill for an actual takeaway is going up by 50%. That is in essence what it means to them. Because when they're buying in the raw ingredients before making your food, most of those products are 0 VAT rated. So this is a direct hit on the hospitality industry with that increase that they will be basically bearing the brunt of. So expect the price of your favourite takeaway to have gone up from next January. So just checking there, have we any questions coming on? Just check with Cheryl in the back room there. Cheryl, have we any questions so far? Right, so we have a question here from Monique. I pay for a health insurance policy, which is quite costly, precisely to cover the cost of a hospital stay. Should I discontinue this? Monique, it's one of those questions that while it's there to cover the cost of a hospital stay, it also means you have private cover, which assists with getting to see a specialist quicker, etc. Until such time as we have a one-tier health system, I would be saying to you, you should actually continue to pay this cost, because of the fact that the plan is giving you, if the plan is purely a hospital stay plan and nothing more, and it's an insurance against any costs from staying in hospital, I would say to you, absolutely, you could discontinue that. But because of the way the health system currently stands, any type of health cover I would see as being very, very much important to hold on to. I'm also just being reminded here in my ear that I need to remind everybody about the Micro Business Awards finals coming up on the 15th of October. And we'll be down in the Osprey Hotel in Naas for a fabulous, fabulous night's entertainment. There'll be approximately 100 small business owners there. We'll have a night of networking. If anybody would like a couple, I think there are 4 tickets left at this moment in time. If anybody would like to book any tickets, if you drop an email to microbusinessawards@gmail.com, but I would say to you that the final numbers have to be confirmed with the hotel on Monday. So if anyone is interested, do get in touch. Also keep an eye on the Micro Business Awards page, because in November we will be launching for next year's awards. And at this year's finals, we'll be announcing the venue for next year. And I can promise you a fabulous night out both this year and next. Anyway, we'll keep moving along to get through this because we're actually gone overtime already. Social welfare payments have gone up by €12 starting in January. €2 increase for a weekly qualified child. Weekly family payment threshold will increase by €40. And the regular Christmas bonus will be there. So all in all, it's been a budget with a little bit for everyone. Could it have been more targeted? Absolutely. But at the same time, everybody is feeling the pinch at the moment. And in fairness, I think they got the best balance they could. On that note, I'm going to bid you all good afternoon because I'm way over time. Thanks very much to Cheryl for keeping everything running smoothly in the background. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another guest to have a chat. Good afternoon.